Hello and welcome to this week's casual review. I'm Fred. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. For those who don't know how we handle the casual reviews here, it's that once I finish a game over on my Twitch channel, also known as me reaching the end credits, that's when I typically sit down and record my thoughts and opinions within a few hours of finishing the game, let things sink in and try and give my overall thoughts and impressions. Now, this week's subject is South Park Snow Day. It came out earlier this year here in 2024. And again, it's not often when I play games within the same year of release, but considering I played both the Stick of Truth and the Fractured Butthole in January, it kind of made sense in mid-April, at the time I'm recording this, to play Snow Day, because, just to get the overall trilogy aspect of it. And South Park Snow Day is indeed a sequel to the earlier two games. As a matter of fact, it makes direct reference to both of those games, where it is said that the new kid, the silent protagonist that we get to play as, basically became so overpowered that it ruined the previous two games. I'm not sure if that's just a commentary in terms of the overall RPG aspect of the Stick of Truth and the Fractured Butthole, but by and large, the whole concept and idea of being able to brute force your way through the game just by being over leveling and making sure you get all the best and possible gear and such is not entirely possible with Snow Day, which is more of a it's not an RPG like the first two games. It's definitely a roguelike with a lot of randomization coming down in terms of the card system. Before every trial of that you go on, you're able to select a couple of perks to begin with, and periodically you get a additional perks and be able to upgrade them through the course of your adventure for that particular trial, and it resets for the next mission. So whatever you have in the first mission, um, you may not have in the second. So there is a bit of randomness to it, which is fine and dandy. It's like I have no problem with that. The car system is actually uh, quite a lot of fun. It allows you to do a lot of customization to see what works for you and your play style. That said, this is also a multiplayer game, so you can set things up to play with your friends, assuming you have the same version of the game, because there is no crossplay with South Park Snow Day. At least there was not at the time I'm recording this. If it gets patched in later on, that would be awesome, because that actually would make this game a lot more compelling to play if you're able to play with your friends across different platforms. So this way you can strategize and see who takes what, instead of dealing with randoms, and kind of hoping that everybody will have a complementary set of equipment or skills and so forth. So it's like no one's doubling up on certain abilities. But again, that's the roguelike aspect of it. Um, and the multiplayer portion is actually well executed. I did not experience any type of lag when people drop in and drop out of playing with you. It's pretty seamless, especially on, at least on the Xbox Series console, the version that I played. There was no slight delay and like things being kind of like put on pause for another player to join in. Now, if you have no one to play with or choosing not to engage in the multiplayer, you do get three AI companions, and this is where let's talk about the difficulties here. There's easy, normal, and hard in terms of difficulty. And on easy difficulty, I kind of found it to be it actually turned out to be a pretty fair challenge. Be playing some of it solo. In that the enemies will swarm you, and the enemies can and will at times overwhelm your AI companions. And this is also due in part because due to the AI for your for your AI companions is not exactly well programmed. A lot of times there are times where they will get stuck in certain areas and die over and over again. Even if you revive them, they would just like stay in one spot, or at least that's a couple of the bugs or glitches or features. That's which is unfortunate. Which actually pushed me to actually play with random people. So it's this is a game that's definitely better playing with others than playing it solo. Uh, for the most part, there's a fair amount of achievements. A lot of them are tied to certain abilities, and some are tied to specific types of challenges and typical like random things like pressing right on the D-pad is an achievement because you found the toot button. Because we all know that the farts were like important in the stick of truth and the fractured butthole. It was those were like important elements there. So it's here, but just not as the major focus. Visually, sound, and visually and audio in the audio and visuals. Um, Pretty good. It's like all the characters sound as they should sound. The sound effects are nice. The background music has that. It's arguably the best background soundtrack in terms of when you're going uh, through the five different trials, or campaigns or story arcs of this game. The music definitely set the tone and vibe, for sure. Visually, this is where the visuals though is where this game shines. Is you're taking the world of South Park and turning it into a 3D environment. Now, it's not the first time we have seen this. Those of us who have played South Park on the PlayStation 1 saw that that potential was there. And granted, that was the PlayStation 1 and that was a first person shooter, and it had some questionable visuals again, but due to the hardware limitations. But considering that game came out back in the mid late 90s, and this is a game here from 2024, it's certainly a great comparison. It's like where you started and where you finished at. So the way I see it, the visuals certainly provide like a great template, a great starting point going forward for more 3D esque adventures and games coming from South Park Studios, because they got a good engine here. There's like the physics by and large work for the most part. The range use of ranged weapons with a bit of a pain in the ass generally, and but especially if you're doing stuff like using a one of the wands that's like launching a projectiles in an arc and trying to aim with the bow and arrow was not exactly intuitive. So I found myself sticking with the more melee attacks than anything else during the course of my playthrough. Now, I have mentioned that there were five campaigns. There are essentially five levels here with individual chapters. And this is a very short game. Like the average campaign playthrough, at least my playthrough start to finish, probably about 5 to 6 hours. And granted, I replayed the the first half of no, I replayed the second stage, which leads into the fight against Princess Kenny twice. Because apparently progress is not exactly saved correctly, as far as I can tell. but it was quite all right in what it was. But yeah, it's a very very short game. It So this is, and it's understandable given its price point of being about $40 at launch, 50 if you're getting like the deluxe edition. But this is a game that I think it's going to, because of its multiplayer component, it's going to live or die based on its DLC. Since it doesn't have crossplay, there needs to be DLC for Snow Day, other than it to be like a neat little novelty, like a South Park multiplayer game that's a bit of a roguelike adventure. There needs to be like actual DLC campaigns related to this game, um, to make it feel like that it's not like a total waste of money, not just from the consumer standpoint, but also like thinking in terms of the actual developers. It's like, because this game is actually thin on things to do in terms of the story experience, especially if you're comparing it to the Fractured Butthole and the Stick of Truth, which were big, sprawling adventures. The Snow Day, it's definitely a very contained and a very focused and linear story. There is no deviation. There is no like major plot twist, and it's also a sequel, not just to those games, but also a sequel to the to an episode of South Park, the one where Mr. Hanky gets canceled. That's essentially what ends up being like the direct tie-in, which is okay. It help resolves a little in-game a little lore to it. But if you're not familiar with that particular episode, you get there are a couple of cutscenes late game that really explain things out. So here comes down to the recommendations here. Would I recommend South Park Snow Day? Yes, but only if you can get it on sale. Do not pay $39.99 for it. For the standard edition, you definitely want to wait to get it for like 30, 40, or even 50% off. It's like it's really tough to justify its overall price because of its game length and the type of game that it is. Now, if they rolled out DLC for it, and it's like, then it might be worth something. It's like to really recommend if there's like if they do DLC stories with it, because I think Matt Stone was interviewed by IGN, like throwing out the idea like, unlike the other two South Park games, this is one that they can actually do DLC for because they got the engine and it's apparently real easily to work with. So if they are going to do that, that would actually be really cool and really beneficial to give this game some sort of legs. Otherwise, again, catch it on sale. Do not pay full price for it. And that leads me to it. Would I play this game again? Well, once you complete the campaign, you can just do a level select. There is no leveling system. There is no new game plus. You just got the achievements. So that will, if I choose to play it again, it's just like, okay, I have random people join me. So let me just join someone else, see if I can get a couple of achievements along the way. But that's basically about it. So with that said, thank you very much. Tighten your friendship bracelet, stay safe, and we'll see y'all in the next video.